With the season of the wish, it is to no one's surprise that there is a batch of craftable weapons. And like every other season, there is a few in that batch that do stand out. Reviews and hot takes with those coming soon. But for today's video, we will be reviewing one of the most highly anticipated weapons since the release of voltshot, a craftable legendary lightweight frame SMG that can roll with voltshot. This would be subjunctive. And we will be answering the question of, is it worth it? But before we get into that, I just want to give a quick plug in here for my live streaming side. I do go live here on YouTube and over on Twitch, doing low man speedruns or just shenanigans with some friends. And if you guys could hop over there real quick just to say hello every once in a while, that would be awesome. Now, getting into the review, I know it's going to be hard to part ways with that IKillos SMG. And trust me, once Subjunctive is in your hands, it's still going to be pretty hard to let go of that IKillos SMG. For Subjunctive's model look and ADS are atrocious to look at. But once you rip the band-aid off and just get used to it, you're going to be happy that you did. Now, getting into Subjunctive's perks, we have options. In our third column, we have Subsistence, Stats for All, Threat Detector, Grave Robber, Stop Looking at It, Under Pressure, and Shoot to Loot. And in our fourth column, we have Golden Tricorn, Voltshot, One for All, Attrition Orbs, Permeability, Swashbuckler, and Disruption Break. So for our fourth column, not a lot of options shine other than Voltshot, but I do have my opinions on Attrition Orbs, but I will be saving that for just a little later. Right now, we will just be focusing on the third column. There are a few options here that you really just can't go wrong with. There are a few that I'd question, and then there's Hipfire Grip. But getting into the perks that are nice, we will start off with Subsistence. A nice, well-rounded perk, not busted by any means, but a perk that brings quality of life to your SMG. For each kill, we'll refill your magazine 17%, and if you're going with no mag perks, only taking advantage of the base magazine size, that would be 6 rounds back in the magazine for each kill. And these short-range shredders rack up kills pretty quickly, making it situationally the best perk for a bit of the low-end ad clearing. The next two perks are some honorable mentions for the same reason that I would bring up Subsistence, and that's Stats for All and Threat Detector. Starting with Stats for All, upon shooting and damaging only 3 enemies, you receive an assload of buffs. 10 stability, 35 handling, 10 range, a 5% increase in damage fall off distance, 35 reload speed, and an animation scaler to your reload by 0.95 times. If you don't know what those last two parts are about, reloads in Destiny are a bit weird. There are 2 ways to speed up your reload, and one is by the base reload stat, and then the other is through like reload mods, which are only animation scalers. Stacking them together makes your reload pretty incredible. But of all these here, Stats for All is definitely the number 2 spot in terms of what a god roll would be for Subjunctive. Next up, we have Threat Detector. With its plethora of buffs it gives you when essentially just surrounded by enemies. That would be 40 stability, 60 reload, and 100 handling when surrounded by 2 or more enemies that are within a 15-meter radius. And now finally, skipping all of the fodder all the way down here is my personal pick and favorite, Shoot to Loot. I know a lot of people might be rolling their eyes right now, but I grew a special bond with Shoot to Loot. It was there for me when I was doing duo Crota's End, during that Ear encounter, and Crota's encounter too, but just not as much. To be able to run for the encounter and shoot a singular brick to 1, reload all of my weapons, and 2, give them ammo, was such a quality of life perk, and something that you just all need to try. It even works with orbs too. When I needed my Feast of Lights, but the orbs were too far across the map, Shoot to Loot was there for me. Granted, I did duo Crota with an IKillos SMG, I just didn't have Subjunctive yet. But seriously, give it a shot. You will not be sorry. Moving on to our fourth column, as briefly discussed before, Voltshot is kind of the only perk that is worth the while. A little tip and trick for Voltshot, Jolt applied by a primary is not as damaging than if it came from a special weapon. But with that said, it's still goated as fuck for just a little extra damage on your single targets and ad clearing. Placing that Jolt on an enemy that can take it, and then watch them be the lightning rod that kills all of his friends. But a thing about Attrition Orbs, this perk is not a bad perk by any means. In fact, it could be considered goated as fuck. It's unused and considered an ass perk because of the competition that is around it, meaning damage boosting perks. But the idea to just constantly damage an enemy and drop an orb from it is pretty peak. There's the idea of stacking armor charges with just using a special finisher and then swap 2 surges to start the timers for them. But 2 single target DPS with the idea to spawn an extra orb for surges is a nice idea. I'll tell you right now, in my duo Crota, there were a few times that I could have used an orb of power paired with a recuperation. That Banner of War fell off and it was just free game at that point. But that's just the thing. This perk is a quality of life perk. So Bungie, put it in the third column. It would be a tough toss up between that and shoot to loot, but at least it would have a foot in the race over there. For now, our final topic for this video, we have to talk about the origin trait, nano munitions. This perk is both goated as fuck and shite at the same time. What it does is when you are near an enemy or a fire team member, it will gain a stack passively. For every stack gained, it will correlate to gaining you 1/4 of your magazine for every time you hit 0 on your ammo. This can stack up to 7 times. An origin trait that rivals overflow, simply because it's passive. The bad part about it is you lose all of your stacks the second you swap off the weapon. It's terrible. Any weapon that punishes multi-gun play is an L in my book. I'm out here stacked with 3 auto-loading weapons simply because I hate reloading, and I'm constantly swapping. Would be nice if it was just truly passive. So if Bungie were able to just throw us a bone here and made this a carryable trait, along with an ornament to get rid of the leaves on this weapon, that would be based as fuck of them, especially the ornaments. This thing is horrendous to look at, and its ADS is as trash as it gets. But by God, it's my new favorite weapon. But let's send this off with everyone's favorite selection. Magazine perks and barrel perks. There's no two ways about it, fellas. You're all gonna hate it because you don't know what the best barrel perk is. But it's fluted barrel. It's the best and it always has been, especially for SMGs. That bump in stability and massive gain in handling is as good as it gets. But now that that's all said and done, let's move on to the magazine perks. With the bonus fact that Subjunctive is not an IKELOS weapon, you no longer have to have the feeling of FOMO when you are not choosing Seraph rounds. We can finally just full send without a care in the world for Flared Magwell. The bonus to reload and stability makes this weapon feel just as advertised. Being a lightweight frame SMG, fast reloads, stable firing, and handles like a champ. Now finally for the last portion of this weapon review, we have the Masterwork. Since with all of our choices so far, we have a near 100 handling stat, I full sended the Masterwork for stability. That's all for this weapon though. And like I said before, I am normally live on Twitch and YouTube doing stuff with friends like Lowmans or speedruns. So if you guys could stop on by just to say hi, that would be absolutely amazing to see. Take care and peace.